Hello and welcome to the 20th video that I'll be posting in my Unity platformer tutorial series. And in today's video, we will be discussing about health bar system for our player. So the first thing that we're going to directly do is we're going to create a folder, create folder, and I'm going to name this folder health bar. I'm going to name this folder health bar. And what I'm going to ask you guys to do is to click on the video description. Click on the link that I'll be posting on the description of the video, and if you click it, you're gonna go to a Google Drive file and you're gonna go to my health bar asset and click on download so you guys can get the free health bar asset, because this asset that we're using right now, our Sunnyland asset right now, does not provide us with health bar assets. So I'll be posting my own health bar asset in the Google Drive, where you can get access by clicking on the link in the description of the video. So what I'm going to do is going to right click this, show in Explorer, and since I already have the asset, I can just directly go to my health bar, and then I'm going to paste. And this is the image that we will be using for our health bar system. So I'm going to close this. And if we go to our health bar folder right now, we can see that it already produces an image. And directly, we're gonna go to our pixels per unit and change it to 25, because this asset uses 25 pixels per unit. Click on apply. And I'm going to click on the sprite mode here from single to multiple, so that we can go to our sprite editor here. Click on apply, click on our sprite editor. And we're just gonna directly drag and slice the image. And in my game, I would like to have only 3 hearts instead of 5 hearts here, where our asset provides us with 5 hearts. I'm just gonna make it to 3 hearts. In the end of the day, it's up to you, the programmer of the game. But then I want my game to have 3 hearts. Okay, so I'm just gonna cut the 3 hearts. By left clicking on your mouse or whatever device you are using, you can cut out the sprite that you want to use. So just left click and drag the area you want to cut out, and the sprite will be cut out. Drag to whichever hearts you want, but I want 3 hearts, and then I want below it, I want to get all of it. So I'm gonna drag again, full here, and then drag again. Okay, so once you've cut all of the slices here, you can click on apply. And then our asset here, our health bar asset here, now will form 4 images that we cut. And then now this is where we start actually creating our health bar. So we're gonna go to our canvas here, click on the arrow so we can expand, and click on cherry tile here so we can see how big we are or where we are. Okay, and then what I'm gonna add is I'm going to be adding a HUD, which I'm gonna create an empty object first, but not inside count cherries. Inside canvas, I'm gonna create an empty object, and I'm gonna name this HUD. And inside of HUD, I'm going to create an image in HUD by right clicking on HUD, go to UI and go to image, and I'm gonna name this health bar. Okay, and then click on the W key so we can get access to our move tool. Move it below our cherries, I guess, or it can be above our cherries actually. So I'm just gonna switch this position by dragging it down a little bit and moving our health bar a little bit to the top. And then in our image here, it asks us for an image, so we can just simply click on our health bar here. And as you can see, the image is pretty squished up. You can click on the preserve aspect here, and then it should keep all of our ratio so it doesn't get squished, but then it's small, so we can just directly go to our scale tool and scale it up. I'm gonna make it something like here. See in our game view, it's pretty big. I guess we can scale it down a little bit. And that's a reasonable size. So I'm just gonna put it in our edge here, and then I'm just gonna increase the height back a little bit. Yeah, okay. And then it doesn't actually matter which image you choose, but I'm gonna choose this image here because I want to see how it will look like most of the time. But later on, we'll be changing that, so it doesn't really matter. Okay. And once you've done that, we can actually go to our scripts folder and create our script. So I'm gonna go back to our assets. I'm gonna go to the scripts folder, right click, create a C# script, and I'm gonna name this C# script health bar. Gonna double click on our health bar script, and it's gonna open our Visual Studio. So the first thing that we're gonna directly do is we're gonna type in using Unity engine.ui. And the reason why we want to type this code right here, it's because we are dealing with something in UI, right? We want our HUD here, our health bar image in UI to be manipulated based on our needs. And that requires the UI part of Unity Engine. Now, when we go to our code here, we're gonna create a few variables. And the first thing that we're gonna create is a public, and I'm gonna make this into a sprite array, and I'm gonna name this health bar sprite. So what is this actually? This is an array, and if you see an array, it's usually indicated by this bracket here, these long brackets here, and the brackets there actually show how this health bar sprite is an array. And an array is essentially like a list where you can keep track of all the objects. Does that make sense? I hope so. Well, you'll be seeing this, you'll be seeing what an array will do in Unity by connecting our health bar to our main camera. So I'm gonna drag our health bar code to our main camera. And then as you can see, there is a variable, and it's going to be called health bar sprites, and I'm going to click on our health bar sprites, and as you can see, it's asking us for size, and we will be having the size of 4. So I'm going to type in size 4, and then you can click on anything, and it's going to update our main camera. As you can see, the script now has 4 sprites. It's going to ask us for 4 sprites. And for example, if I just say 6 sprites here and go back to our main camera, as you can see, there are now 6 sprites. So an array is basically like a list where it can store up a specific type of item. And in this case, we want our sprite array. Okay, we want a sprite array. So it's gonna keep track of everything, of every sprite. And we'll be using that later on again as the series continues. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna type in another variable, and it's gonna be called public image hearts UI. And the reason why I want to make an image is because remember that our health bar here, our health bar is actually an image, right? And it is part of a UI. So I can just type in public image hearts UI, and then in our main camera, it's gonna ask us for which image you are talking about. So I can just drag our health bar image to our hearts UI. Now, the health bar script knows which image we are talking about. And this is where things get complicated. We are going to do another script communication. But before that, we're just gonna type in our player controller script before we actually create the script communication. So in our player control script, we will be creating a new variable, and this variable will be called player current health. And the reason why I'm gonna make a variable for our player current health is that so when our player is actually crushing an enemy, we can just minus the player current health. When we get cherries, we can add or implement a unique healing system by using our player current health variable. So I'm gonna make a public integer and I'm gonna name this player current health. Okay. And then to make sure I specify, I'm gonna go to our player right now and I'm gonna go to our player current health, and since we only have 3 health, so I'm just gonna say player current health is 3. Okay. And then we go to our code here where we are going to our void update. If player state is hurt, then I actually want a unique feature for our game, and that is if there is already 10 amount of cherries, then we can get 1 health back. Okay. But then if the amount of health we have is already 3, then we won't heal and it will just store up. But then every 10 cherries, we can heal back 1 health. And that's actually implemented to some game like Sonic where you need 100 rings to get 1 health back. And I'm going to make the game much more simpler, and it's just going to be 10 health. But then you can simply modify the value later. So I just say if our cherry num, which is the thing that's storing our cherries, is bigger than 10, which means that we can actually take 10 value for our player current health. So we can get back 1 health. But then if player current health is actually below 3, so basically what this code is trying to say is that if cherry num is more than 10, which means that's like 11 or 12, and our player current health is less than 3, which means that we are losing, or we already lost 1 heart, then we will minus cherry num by 10, so that 10 cherry heart equals to 1 heart, so we're just minusing 10. And then we're basically going to add player current health plus equals to 1, so that we can regain 1 health back. And then here is where we want to make sure that if, however, our player current health is much larger than 4, which means that player current health will equals to 3. And this code is basically just a precaution for if our player current health exceeds more than 4. Okay, and I think that's it for our unique regain health system with our cherries. And then if we go to our on collision here, we're just actually adding a few line of code, and that is for if we are getting pushed by the enemy, we want to make sure that our player current health will be minus by 1, and then if our player current health is equal to 0, then we want to restart the game. And the way we can do that is by going to the top here and create a variable and create another keyword here for using here. And instead of using tmprobe, we're going to type in using unity engine. And then what we want to manage our scenes, right? Because Unity is created by scenes here. So we're just gonna edit our scene, and that is by typing using Unity engine and then what we want, scene management. And then this will be used for our scene management and restarting our scene. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna type in if player control equals 0, which means that we're basically dead. Then we want our scene management, our scene manager, because our scene manager is basically the code or the program or the manager that manages the scene, and it tells the computer which scene we are currently at and whether or not we want to restart the scene or something like that. So scene manager, and then what do we want? We want to load scene because we want to make sure that we restart the game, but then we don't want to change anything. So we're just gonna go and tell to our scene manager that we want to load the active scene or the scene that we're playing right now. So we're just gonna get active scene, and then we're gonna type in the int scene build index, but we don't know our string scene name. We also don't want to specify that. We don't want to specify that too, because for example, if I type in game level 1 and then we're actually in game level 2, then it'll restart to game level 1, and we don't want that. So we're just gonna type in get active scene, and then we can say get the name of that scene, and I don't want to specify the name. So by doing this code right here, it's going to reload the scene when we die or when the player is dead. And to ensure that we actually do that, we're just gonna go to our file, build settings, and then it's gonna ask us for the scene in build. And what you're gonna do is we're gonna drag our scene here, and we're just gonna drag game level 1, and that is how you actually make sure that our scene manager is working, because our scene manager will only work when we already have the scenes in our build settings. So if I close, also don't click build and run, because I'll be discussing about these topics as the series progress. And then we are back to our program here, where if it goes to the left, we are pushed to the left, we minus player current health, and if we push to the right, then we also want that minus equals to 1. And then we are essentially done with our programming for our player health. And now we are actually going to go back to our health bar script and create what I said is complicated, which is the script's communication. And this might be a little bit confusing because, as you can see, yesterday we created our script communication. And the way we do it is make it directly in one line. But then actually, we can create another form of script communication. So what we're going to do directly is we're going to create a variable, and the variable will be called public. And what do we want for our script? We want to get our player controller. So we're going to say our player controller, which is the name of the script. And then I want to have the name of the variable, which is player controller script. And player controller script essentially is the name of the variable, and player controller is the script name. And then as usual, if we make a variable in the top here, we can initialize it in our start function or start method, and we're just going to type in player controller script equals to what we want to find. We want to get our object, so game object, and then we want to what? We want to specify our sprite, and the way we can do that is we specify or we find this sprite, which is what? What is our sprite here? Player. So player, and then what do we want? We want to get components. We want to get our player controller, and then end with a bracket. So what this is trying to do is essentially replicate this, but since this is actually script communication with a parent script, and this is script communication without the parent script, and we're just taking the script found present in one of the sprites. And the way we can do that is we go to, or we create a variable with the name of the script and the name of the variable, so it knows that we want to take a script. And then in our void start, we want to specify where we want to take the script. So we type in the name of the variable, we get the game object that the script is present in. Then we want to get components specifically found in the player, which is the script. Okay. And then actually in our void update, we won't change much. And we're just going to type in our void update, one line of code, which is going to be Hearts UI, so that we can change the current image. So we're just going to say Hearts UI Sprite, because as you can see, if we go to our health bar here, it's going to ask us for the source image. So we're just going to say Hearts UI.sprite, and we're going to say equals to our health bar sprite, which contains our health bar sprite here, which contains our image, and we want to specifically take, for example, image 0. So we're just going to type in health bar sprite 0, or if you want to take health bar image 1 here, we want to take in health bar image 1, 2, 3, 4, and that is essentially what we're trying to do. So we want to take in a number, and if not mistaken, our player controller script player current health actually tells us the number of health the player actually has. So we can just type in our player controller script dot player current health, and with a semicolon, and we're done. And now we are actually just one step closer to finishing, and that is actually typing in or putting our sprite here. So we can just go to our assets, our health bar, and then we're just going to drag in the image based on our sprite here. So for our health bar, we're going to put it in our sprite here, and then for our 2 health bar, we're going to put in our 2, and for our health bar 1, we're going to put in our element 1. We're going to put the last one here with no health at all at the very top for element 0. And the reason why I'm doing this is because remember that our player current health, for example, is 3, and we want it to take our element 3, because when the player controller health is 3, then we want it to take element 3. And if it's 2 or 1, then it'll take the 2. We cannot say that our full health is in element 0, because our player current health starts with 3. So directly we're going to put it in our element 3. I don't know if that makes sense, but let's just click on play and let's see what happens now. As you can see, we start with 3 health, and if we crash the enemy right here, we get 2 health. And if we click on our enemy again, we get 2 health, and finally we just died. If we click on 1, if we crash the enemy, don't jump on the enemy. So this is first health, and then we run away, crash the enemy, second health, and we have one more, and then we're dead. And then what I'm gonna show you again is actually our healing system. If we go to our cherries group here, we go to our cherry here, and then we just want to get 10 cherries. So I'm just gonna drag 10 cherries quickly. 1, this is actually a quick sketch, and I know this is still bad, but then I will make it much better. But this is just for the healing purpose, so I can show you guys. And then we're just gonna drag this inside cherries group here. And then when we click play, let's for example take in 1 damage here, 1 damage, and then we're gonna get all of our cherries here, and we get 6 cherries, we get 10 cherries, and as you can see, we heal 1 health. But then our hurt animation seems to be prolonged for a reason, and the way we can do that is we can, you know what, I'm gonna be discussing that in the next video. But for now, I think our hurt animation is running, and we have 10 cherries. And what I'm gonna do is actually, as you can see, we got 1 health, but then our cherry num is not updating properly. Well, because we do not say that if we collide with another enemy, we want to make sure that we are actually also updating our cherry num. So I want to update almost every time we collide with something or we get something. I want to make sure that we update this. So when this on collision works, when we are hurt the enemy, it works. And then where's that one more? When we update in our void update here, in our void update, we're actually going to put that too. We are going to place in the code here. We get -10, and then we just type in code here, bam, so that it will update that. And yeah, if we click on play right now, crash on the enemy, obtain a lot of cherries, and there you go. We got healed, and our cherries will be 0. And that is actually it for today. So I'm just going to control save everything, and we are going to review all of our code. So first of all, we're going to go to our health bar script, and we're going to see that we made an array or list of sprites, and this can be done by using these brackets here. The name, and then we don't need to initialize this because it is a public variable where we can drag our images. And then this code here is used to identify or put in our UI text, our UI health bar. And then this here is our player controller script communication. So the way we can do this is we make sure we make a name variable. And then in our void start, we initialize this to get the specific component or specific sprite that has the component player controller. And in this case, we will get the game object, specifically find the player, and get the object player controller. And in our void update, we make sure that our hearts UI dot sprite, which is basically telling that our hearts UI here or our health bar image will follow the image in our health bar script. And we can do that by making sure that this equals to our health bar sprites. So these are our health bar sprites, and it's going to ask us which image do we want to focus on. And the image is essentially because we have 3 health. So when we start the game, our player current health is 3. So player control script dot player control health is 3. And then when we get or crash into an enemy, we become 2. And then it's gonna get our picture element 2 health hearts bar animation 2, and then we're gonna click it. And as you can see, it becomes 2 health. And then if we get 1 more damage, we become 1. And this all happened because of our player current health that is tracking the current health of the player. So now if we go to our player control script, we can see that we create a player current health variable where every time we get damaged by the enemy, we minus 1. And when the game starts, we directly initialize it to 3 by going to our player control script and making sure that the player current health is 3. And we actually made this unique healing type where if our cherry num is more than 10 and our health is less than 3, which means we can heal 1, and if this condition isn't fulfilled, then we don't heal 1. If we have full health, then essentially we can't heal. And that is our unique system way of healing. And I think that's it. So that's it for me today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys understand more about Unity platformer making, and I'll see you in the next video.